A 6-month-old baby girl, paralyzed from birth, is fighting for her life every day. The Henderson family has done everything they can to help their little daughter, but nothing seems to work. That is, until one day a miracle happens. A tiny puppy from the neighbor's house walks into their lives, and with just a gentle touch, he leaves the family stunned. What will happen next? The secret behind the extraordinary bond between Buddy and Avery is waiting for you to discover. Before continuing the story, tell me which city you are watching from. I want to know how far this video has come. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so I can send you exciting stories like this every day. No more waiting, the story begins right now. In the quiet suburb of Sunnydale, where autumn leaves dance through well-kept yards, the Henderson family faced their greatest challenge yet. 6-month-old Avery, with her bright blue eyes and golden wisps of hair, had been diagnosed with infant paralysis following complications during birth. Her parents, Olivia and Ethan Henderson, had transformed their modest 2-story home into a haven of hope and healing, though their hearts carried the weight of uncertainty each day. Olivia, a former pediatric nurse, had left her job to provide round-the-clock care for Avery. Ethan worked double shifts at the local hardware store, determined to cover the mounting medical expenses. Despite their exhaustion, they maintained their gentle optimism, finding joy in Avery's sweet smile and the way her eyes followed them around the room. Their next-door neighbor, Mrs. Taylor, had been breeding golden retrievers for over 3 decades. When she heard about Avery's condition, she couldn't shake the feeling that her newest litter's smallest puppy, whom she called Buddy, might bring some light into the Hendersons' lives. Buddy was the runt of the litter, but what he lacked in size, he made up for in heart. His warm brown eyes seemed to hold wisdom beyond his weeks, and his gentle nature set him apart from his more boisterous siblings. At first, Olivia and Ethan were hesitant about adding a puppy to their already challenging situation. They had enough on their plate with Avery's therapy sessions, doctor's appointments, and daily care routine. But Mrs. Taylor insisted they just meet Buddy, if only for a few minutes. The day Buddy first entered the Henderson home, something magical happened. The tiny golden puppy, barely steady on his own paws, took one look at Avery in her specially designed infant chair and padded straight to her. There was no jumping or excited barking, just a gentle approach and a soft nose pressed against Avery's hand. The connection was instant and undeniable. Avery, who rarely showed much response to new stimuli, tracked Buddy's movements with her eyes and made small cooing sounds. It was the most animated they had seen her in months. That evening, after much discussion, Olivia and Ethan agreed to welcome Buddy into their family. Mrs. Taylor provided the puppy for free, saying only that some matches were meant to be and that Buddy had clearly found his purpose. Little did they know that this small, furry addition to their family would set in motion a series of events that would change their lives forever. In the months to come, the bond between a paralyzed baby and her devoted puppy would not only inspire their community, but would also lead to what many would later call a miracle. The first few weeks with Buddy brought subtle changes to the Henderson household. While Olivia maintained Avery's strict schedule of physical therapy and medical routines, Buddy became an ever-present shadow, watching each movement with remarkable attention. He would lie next to Avery during her floor exercises, his warm body providing comfort during what were often frustrating sessions for the infant. One particularly challenging afternoon in late October, Olivia was struggling to keep Avery engaged in her therapy. The baby was fussy, fighting against the gentle movements her mother tried to guide her through. Buddy, who had been dozing in his usual spot nearby, suddenly perked up. What happened next would become the first of many extraordinary moments. As Avery began to cry, Buddy rose and did something unprecedented. He carefully gripped one of Avery's soft toys in his mouth, a small rainbow-colored rattle, and placed it just beyond her reach. Then, he did something that made Olivia catch her breath. He began pawing gently at Avery's hand, as if encouraging her to move toward the toy. "Ethan!" Olivia called out, her voice trembling with excitement. "Ethan, come quickly!" Ethan rushed in from his home office, where he had been catching up on paperwork. What they witnessed together brought tears to their eyes. Avery, who had never shown any voluntary movement below her shoulders, was making small, jerking motions with her right hand toward the rattle. Buddy continued his gentle encouragement, alternating between touching her hand with his nose and repositioning the toy. "It's like he knows," Ethan whispered, not wanting to break the spell of the moment. "He's trying to help her move." Olivia immediately called Dr. Carter, Avery's neurologist, and described what they had witnessed. The doctor, though cautious in her response, agreed that any voluntary movement, no matter how small, was significant. She scheduled an immediate evaluation for the following morning. That night, something else remarkable occurred. For the first time since bringing Avery home from the hospital, she slept through the night, but only after Buddy had managed to squeeze himself into a position where he could rest his head near her hand. The puppy seemed to have an innate understanding of exactly what Avery needed. During the evaluation the next day, Dr. Carter observed Buddy's interaction with Avery with growing amazement. The puppy appeared to be instinctively replicating some of the motivation techniques used in physical therapy, but in a way that deeply engaged Avery's attention and desire to respond. "In my 30 years of practice," Dr. Carter admitted, "I've never seen anything quite like this. There's documented evidence of dogs sensing medical conditions and even predicting seizures. But this level of therapeutic instinct in a puppy is extraordinary." She recommended incorporating Buddy into Avery's therapy sessions, documenting every interaction and response. The hospital's physical therapy department was intrigued enough to request permission to study the unique bond between the puppy and patient. News of Avery and Buddy's special connection began to spread through the hospital. Other parents of children with similar conditions started asking questions, and the local news caught wind of the story. Initially, Olivia and Ethan were protective of their privacy, but Dr. Carter suggested that sharing their experience might help other families explore alternative therapeutic approaches. As October turned to November, Buddy grew bigger, but his gentle nature remained unchanged. He developed an uncanny ability to predict when Avery was about to become frustrated during therapy, intervening with his toy-placing strategy before she could get upset. The hospital documented a measurable increase in Avery's responsive movements, particularly in her right hand and arm, but it was what happened next that would truly astound everyone. One crisp November morning, as Olivia was preparing Avery's breakfast, she heard an unusual commotion from the living room where she had left Avery safely strapped in her special chair. Buddy was barking, something he rarely did, with a tone of urgency that made Olivia's heart race. She rushed into the room to find Avery in distress, her face reddening as she struggled with a piece of her teething ring that had somehow broken off. Buddy was already in action, his front paws on the edge of Avery's chair, using his nose to try to dislodge the piece from her mouth. Olivia quickly performed the infant Heimlich maneuver she had learned in her nursing days, successfully removing the obstruction. As she held Avery close, still shaking from near disaster, she realized that Buddy's vigilance had potentially saved her daughter's life. The puppy's intervention had alerted her crucial seconds sooner than she might have otherwise noticed. This incident marked a turning point in the Henderson family's journey. It became clear that Buddy was more than just a family pet or even a therapy aid. He was Avery's guardian angel in fur. What they didn't realize was that this event was just the beginning of an even more remarkable chapter in their story. The breakthrough came on a quiet Sunday morning in early December. Olivia was filming one of Avery and Buddy's therapy sessions for the hospital's research team when she noticed something extraordinary through her camera lens. During their usual play routine, Buddy had placed Avery's favorite rattle just out of reach. But this time, something was different in Avery's response. Instead of the small, jerking movements they had grown accustomed to, Avery's entire arm moved in a smooth, deliberate motion. The movement wasn't just reflexive, it was purposeful. Olivia's hands trembled so much, she almost dropped the phone she was recording with. "Ethan," she called out, her voice cracking with emotion. "Ethan, please come here now." As Ethan entered the room, they both watched in awe as Avery, encouraged by Buddy's gentle nudges, repeated the movement. Buddy's tail wagged steadily, as if he knew exactly what this moment meant. The puppy had somehow unlocked a pathway in Avery's nervous system that all the conventional therapy hadn't been able to reach. Dr. Carter arrived within the hour after Olivia sent her the video. The neurologist's examination revealed something remarkable. Avery was showing signs of neural regeneration in areas previously thought to be permanently damaged. The patterns of her brain activity when interacting with a buddy were significantly different from her baseline readings. There's something about the combination of emotional connection and physical motivation that Buddy provides. Dr. Carter explained, watching as the puppy demonstrated his technique again. He somehow tapped into neural pathways we couldn't access through traditional therapy. The discovery led to an immediate modification of Avery's treatment plan. The hospital's research team began documenting every interaction between Buddy and Avery, using sophisticated monitoring equipment to track her neural responses. They observed that Buddy had instinctively developed a pattern of engagement that perfectly suited Avery's needs. First, he would make eye contact, establishing a connection that triggered positive emotional responses in her brain. Then, he would provide gentle physical contact, usually with his nose or paw, stimulating her tactile senses. Finally, he would present a toy or challenge, motivating her to attempt movement. What amazed the medical team most was how Buddy seemed to know exactly when to adjust his approach. If Avery showed signs of fatigue, he would automatically shift to a more soothing presence, lying beside her until she was ready to try again. The hospital's pediatric department began developing what they called the Buddy protocol, studying ways to incorporate similar animal-assisted therapy techniques into their treatment programs for other paralyzed children. Mrs. Taylor, who had bred Buddy, was consulted about his lineage, revealing that his grandmother had been a certified therapy dog who had worked with special needs children. But perhaps the most profound revelation came from Avery herself. During one of her sessions, while reaching for a toy Buddy had placed nearby, she made a sound that caused everyone in the room to freeze. "Clear as day," she had said. "Buddy," her first word. Olivia burst into tears and Ethan had to sit down, overwhelmed by the moment. Buddy, showing his usual sensitivity, immediately went to Avery and gently licked her hand, causing her to giggle, another sound they had rarely heard before. Dr. Carter later explained that the emotional connection Avery had formed with the Buddy had created new neural pathways, not just for movement, but for communication as well. The puppy had somehow become a bridge between Avery and the world around her, opening doors that everyone had feared would remain forever closed. As word of Avery's progress spread, the Hendersons began receiving calls from medical centers across the country, all interested in learning more about this remarkable case of canine-assisted recovery. But for Olivia and Ethan, the most important miracle was the joy they now saw daily in their daughter's eyes, a joy that seemed to grow stronger with each new achievement, always accompanied by the devoted presence of her four-legged guardian angel. With Avery's progress becoming more evident each day, Olivia and Ethan faced a crucial decision. The Children's Hospital of San Francisco had reached out, offering to include Avery in a groundbreaking study combining traditional therapy with animal-assisted rehabilitation. The program could potentially help countless other children, but it would mean relocating for 6 months. Olivia sat in Avery's nursery one evening, watching as Buddy performed his now familiar routine of encouraging Avery to reach for toys. The bond between them had grown so strong that Buddy could anticipate Avery's needs before she showed any signs of distress. The thought of disrupting this delicate balance weighed heavily on her heart. "We can't separate them," Ethan said softly from the doorway. "Doorway? Reading his wife's thoughts. "Whatever we decide, they need to stay together." The hospital had already considered this, offering to include Buddy as an integral part of the study. Mrs. Taylor, who would become like a grandmother to Avery, offered to help them find temporary accommodation in San Francisco that would accept pets. Still, the decision wasn't easy. They would need to leave their support system behind. Ethan would have to take a leave of absence from work, and their savings would be stretched thin. But as they watched Avery giggle while Buddy gently nudged her hand toward a colorful block, they knew what they had to do. "If there's even a chance this could help other children," Olivia said, "we have to try." The consequences of their decision began unfolding immediately. The local community, having followed Avery's story in the newspaper, rallied around them. The hardware store where Ethan worked organized a fundraiser. Mrs. Taylor coordinated with her Golden Retriever breeding network to arrange for Buddy to receive specialized therapy dog training during their stay in San Francisco. The move itself proved challenging. Avery had never been away from home for more than a day, and the change in environment could potentially set back her progress. During the flight to San Francisco, Buddy remained steadfast, keeping his head on Avery's lap throughout the journey, his presence calming her anxiety. Their first week in San Francisco brought unexpected hurdles. Avery struggled to sleep in the unfamiliar apartment, and her therapy sessions at the hospital were initially less productive than they had been at home. Buddy, however, proved to be the constant that helped her adjust. He transformed their temporary living space into a familiar sanctuary, maintaining his routines and continuing his gentle encouragement. The research team was fascinated by Buddy's adaptability. In the clinical setting, he seamlessly integrated into formal therapy sessions, working alongside physical therapists to motivate Avery. His methods were studied and documented, leading to new insights into the potential of animal-assisted therapy. But the most significant consequence of their decision emerged during Avery's third week in San Francisco. During a session being observed by a panel of neurologists, Avery did something unprecedented. Supported by Buddy's encouraging presence, she not only reached for a toy but managed to grasp it firmly, a level of motor control they hadn't seen before. The excitement in the therapy room was palpable, but Buddy remained focused solely on Avery, offering quiet encouragement as she explored this new ability. The moment was captured on video and quickly became part of the hospital's research presentation. As word spread through the medical community, other families began arriving in San Francisco, some from as far away as Europe, hoping to learn from Avery and Buddy's story. The Hendersons found themselves at the center of a growing movement advocating for the integration of animal-assisted therapy and pediatric rehabilitation. However, the increased attention brought its own challenges. Avery's schedule became more demanding as researchers sought to document every aspect of her interaction with Buddy. The puppy's protective instincts kicked in, and he would sometimes position himself between Avery and the medical team if he sensed she was becoming overwhelmed. He's teaching us as much about emotional intelligence as he is about physical therapy. One of the lead researchers noted, "We're learning to read the subtle cues he picks up on." Their decision had set in motion a chain of events that went far beyond Avery's personal journey. The hospital began developing a training program for therapy dogs specifically focused on working with paralyzed children. Other hospitals started reaching out, wanting to implement similar programs. Yet amidst all the medical breakthroughs and research opportunities, the most profound consequence was visible in the quiet moments. Avery's growing confidence, her strengthening bond with Buddy, and the hope that now filled their daily lives. The puppy, who had started as an uncertain addition to their family, had become the catalyst for transformative change, not just for Avery, but potentially for countless other children facing similar challenges. As Olivia watched Avery fall asleep one night, Buddy in his usual protective position beside her bed, she knew that despite the challenges, they had made the right choice. Their decision had opened doors they never knew existed, leading them down a path of hope, discovery, and unexpected miracles. While Avery's story remained at the heart of their journey, another remarkable narrative was unfolding within the halls of the Children's Hospital of San Francisco. 7-year-old Lucas, a boy who had been paralyzed in a car accident 2 years earlier, became fascinated by Avery and Buddy's daily therapy sessions. From his wheelchair in the corridor, he would watch through the observation window, his eyes following every interaction between the puppy and the baby. Lucas's mother, Hannah, noticed how her usually withdrawn son would light up whenever Buddy and Avery were nearby. One afternoon, as the Hendersons were leaving the therapy room, Buddy suddenly stopped and turned toward Lucas. Without any prompting, the puppy gently approached the boy's wheelchair and placed his head on Lucas's lap. "He's never done that before with anyone else," Olivia explained to Hannah, watching the interaction with interest. "He usually stays completely focused on Avery." This unexpected connection led to a new dimension in the research program. Dr. Carter suggested including Lucas in some of Avery's therapy sessions, creating a small peer group environment. While Buddy maintained his primary bond with Avery, he began incorporating Lucas into their routines, sometimes carrying toys between the two children, creating a bridge of communication and motivation. The change in Lucas was remarkable. Inspired by Avery's progress and encouraged by Buddy's gentle presence, he began showing renewed interest in his own therapy sessions. The boy who had given up on trying to move his arms was now asking his therapists if he could try Avery's way of reaching for toys. Mrs. Taylor, who had been following their progress from home, arrived in San Francisco with another surprise. Buddy's sister, Bella, who shared his gentle temperament. After careful introduction and training, Bella began working with Lucas, replicating the successful approach her brother had developed with Avery. This development caught the attention of the hospital's psychiatric department. They began studying the psychological impact of peer group therapy combined with animal assistance, particularly noting how the presence of the way seemed to reduce anxiety and depression in their young patients. A support group formed organically among the parents of children in the program. They would gather in the hospital's family room, sharing stories, concerns, and celebrations of small victories. Olivia found herself becoming an unofficial mentor to new families entering the program, sharing her experience of how Buddy had changed their lives. The local news picked up this secondary story, focusing on how one puppy's intuitive connection with a paralyzed baby had sparked a movement that was now helping multiple children. The hospital's pilot program expanded to include 10 more families, each paired with carefully selected therapy dogs. Lucas's progress became intertwined with Avery's story. While Avery continued making strides with her upper body movement, Lucas discovered he could now maintain his grip on objects longer than before. The two children, despite their age difference, developed a special friendship, communicated through smiles, gestures, and their shared connection with Buddy, Hannah, and Olivia formed a close bond as well, supporting each other through challenging days and celebrating every small victory. They began working together to create a parent resource guide, sharing their experiences and insights with other families facing similar challenges. This unexpected development of peer support and community building added a rich new dimension to the research program. The medical team observed that the children who participated in group sessions with the dog often showed more rapid progress than those in individual therapy alone. As winter turned to spring in San Francisco, the secondary story of Lucas and the growing support community became an integral part of the larger narrative. What had started as one puppy's remarkable connection with one baby had blossomed into a network of hope, healing, and mutual support that no one had anticipated. As spring blossomed in San Francisco, the bonds between all those involved in the program deepened in unexpected ways. The relationship between Avery and Buddy evolved beyond their initial therapeutic connection into something almost symbiotic. Buddy had grown into a handsome young dog, but his gentle puppy soul remained unchanged when it came to Avery. One particularly memorable morning, Avery achieved another milestone. During their therapy session, she not only reached for a toy, but managed to pull herself into a sitting position with minimal support. Buddy's reaction was extraordinary. He circled her excitedly, his tail wagging with such enthusiasm that everyone in the room could feel his joy. When Avery began to wobble slightly, he was instantly at her side, providing a steady support for her to lean against. "It's as if they're dancing together," remarked one of the therapists. Watching the fluid way Buddy anticipated and responded to Avery's movements, they've developed their own language. The relationship between Olivia and Ethan also transformed through this experience. The strain of medical challenges had initially tested their marriage, but watching their daughter's progress had brought them closer than ever. They developed a tag team approach to Avery's care, with Ethan becoming as adept at therapy techniques as Olivia, while Olivia learned to handle the growing media interest with Ethan's natural diplomacy. Mrs. Taylor made regular visits from home, bringing updates about Bella's progress with Lucas and providing valuable insights from her years of experience with therapy dogs. She began working closely with the hospital's new canine training program, helping to identify puppies with the potential to form the same kind of healing bonds that Buddy had established with Avery. The relationship between the families in the program flourished into a tight-knit community. Weekly support group meetings evolved into friendship gatherings with children and dogs playing together while parents shared stories and advice. Hannah and Olivia started a blog documenting their children's journeys, which quickly gained a following among families facing similar challenges worldwide. Carter's relationship with the program deepened as well. What had started as a scientific interest in Avery's case had become a passion project. She began advocating for insurance companies to cover animal-assisted therapy and worked to establish protocols for implementing similar programs in other hospitals. But perhaps the most touching relationship development was between Avery and Lucas. Despite their age difference, they formed a special connection, communicating through a combination of gestures, expressions, and their canine intermediaries. Lucas took on the role of big brother, celebrating each of Avery's achievements as if they were his own. One afternoon during a joint therapy session, something remarkable happened that highlighted the depth of these relationships. Avery was having a difficult day, frustrated by a new exercise that challenged her improving mobility. As she began to show signs of giving up, Lucas wheeled himself over to her with Bella by his side. Buddy, sensing the shift in dynamics, brought Avery's favorite toy to Lucas instead of directly to her. Lucas, using his recently regained grip strength, held the toy out to Avery. "You can do it," he said softly, speaking more words at once than his mother had heard in months. "Buddy believes in you, and so do I." The moment transformed the entire atmosphere in the therapy room. Inspired by Lucas's encouragement and Buddy's unwavering support, made another attempt at the exercise. This time she succeeded, reaching further than she ever had before. Olivia and Hannah exchanged tearful smiles while Dr. Carter hastily made notes about the power of peer encouragement in combination with animal-assisted therapy. The bonds between all of them, children, parents, voisins, and medical staff, had created a healing environment that transcended traditional therapeutic approaches. As news of their success spread, other hospitals began sending staff to observe and learn. The relationships formed in the San Francisco program became a model for building similar supportive communities elsewhere. What had started as one puppy's connection with one baby had grown into a web of relationships that supported and strengthened each other. Buddy, still the catalyst at the center of it all, seemed to understand the importance of his role. He moved seamlessly between being Avery's dedicated therapy partner, Lucas's friendly encourager, and a gentle ambassador for the program's new visitors. His relationship with Avery remained primary, but he had learned to extend his healing presence to others while never neglecting his special charge. These deepening relationships proved crucial as they approached the final months of the program, for they would all need each other's strength for the challenges and triumphs that lay ahead. The defining moment came during the program's final month at a demonstration event organized for medical professionals and potential program sponsors. The hospital auditorium was filled with neurologists, pediatric specialists, and representatives from other children's hospitals across the country. Avery, now approaching her first birthday, was scheduled to demonstrate her progress alongside Lucas and several other children from the program. The pressure of the situation was palpable. Avery, usually comfortable in therapy sessions, began showing signs of distress as she faced the crowd of unfamiliar faces. Buddy, sensing her anxiety, positioned himself closer to her special chair, providing his reassuring presence. What happened next would be remembered as the miracle that no one expected. As Olivia prepared to begin their demonstration, Avery suddenly reached both arms out toward Buddy, a movement far more coordinated than anything she had shown before. Then, with Buddy's steady presence beside her, she did something that caused the entire auditorium to fall silent. She pushed herself forward and, for the first time in her life, managed to roll over completely on her own. The audience gasped collectively, but Buddy remained focused entirely on Avery, offering gentle encouragement as she discovered this new ability. Olivia stood frozen, tears streaming down her face, as Ethan fumbled to record the moment on his phone. Dr. Carter quickly moved forward to document this unprecedented development, but Avery wasn't finished surprising them. With Buddy continuing his gentle guidance, moving slightly away and then back, encouraging her with soft woofs, Avery began to push herself up on her arms. The strength she had developed over months of therapy suddenly manifested in a way no one had dared to hope for. She managed to maintain a crawling position for several seconds before carefully lowering herself back down. The auditorium erupted in applause, but Avery seemed aware only of Buddy, who was now gently nuzzling her face as she giggled with delight. Lucas, watching from his wheelchair nearby, began to cry happy tears, while Bella pressed closer to offer him comfort. Dr. Carter quickly organized an immediate medical evaluation. The tests revealed something remarkable. Avery's neural pathways had developed new connections, bypassing some of the damaged areas in ways the medical team hadn't thought possible. The combination of Buddy's consistent therapeutic support, the peer group environment, and Avery's own determination had achieved what many had considered impossible. The event transformed from a simple demonstration into a celebration of possibility. Other children in the program, inspired by Avery's breakthrough, began showing new progress of their own. Lucas, with Bella's encouragement, demonstrated how he could now maintain his grip strength for extended periods, something that had seemed impossible just months before. News of Avery's breakthrough spread quickly through medical circles and social media. The video Ethan had captured went viral, offering hope to families worldwide facing similar challenges. The hospital's phone lines were flooded with inquiries about the program, and several major medical institutions immediately pledged funding to support its expansion. But amidst all the excitement and celebration, it was the quiet moment that followed that truly captured the essence of their journey. As the crowd dispersed and the medical team huddled to discuss the implications of what they'd witnessed, Avery lay contentedly on her therapy mat, one hand resting on Buddy's fur, while he maintained his protective watch over her. Their bond, which had started this entire journey, remained at the heart of the miracle they had just witnessed. Olivia and Ethan held each other, watching their daughter and her faithful companion, knowing that this moment marked not just a medical breakthrough, but the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. The puppy who had entered their lives as a tiny ball of fur had helped orchestrate what many were now calling a miracle of love, determination, and the incredible healing power of the pendulum between a child and her dog. In the wake of Avery's breakthrough, the Hendersons faced their most challenging decision yet. The initial 6-month program was coming to an end, but the hospital desperately wanted them to stay on for another year. The research team argued that documenting Avery's continued progress was crucial for developing treatments for other children. Multiple hospitals were offering research positions, grants, and specialized care if they would relocate to their facilities. The pressure to make the right choice weighed heavily on Olivia and Ethan. They gathered in Dr. Carter's office one evening after therapy, with Buddy lying protectively at Avery's feet to discuss their options. Avery's case is unprecedented, Dr. Carter explained, spreading out the latest test results. The neural regeneration we're seeing could revolutionize how we treat pediatric paralysis. But, she added softly, looking at Buddy, we also understand that this isn't just about medical research. The conflict wasn't just about choosing between opportunities. Their home community had been wonderfully supportive, organizing fundraisers and maintaining their house during their absence. Mrs. Taylor had put her breeding program on hold to help coordinate the therapy dog training initiatives. Lucas and Hannah had become like family, and the thought of separating the children seemed almost cruel. Ethan voiced what they were all thinking. We need to find a way to help other children without sacrificing Avery's progress or breaking up the support system that's developed here. They began working on a compromise. Olivia, drawing from her nursing background, proposed a hybrid solution. They would return home but make regular visits to San Francisco for intensive therapy sessions and research documentation. They would also help establish a satellite program at their local children's hospital, with Mrs. Taylor coordinating the therapy dog training. The hospital administrators were initially resistant to this part-time arrangement, concerned about maintaining the consistency of their research. But Buddy, as he had done so many times before, unknowingly provided the answer during one of Avery's therapy sessions. While they were discussing the logistics, Avery began showing signs of fatigue, a situation that would typically lead to decreased performance. Buddy, sensing her tiredness, modified his usual routine. Instead of encouraging more movement, he gently guided her to rest against him, demonstrating that sometimes progress meant knowing when to pause. That's it, Dr. Carter exclaimed, watching the interaction. We've been so focused on maintaining constant forward momentum that we've overlooked the importance of natural rhythms in recovery. Maybe a cyclical approach, alternating between intensive therapy periods and home-based maintenance, could actually enhance long-term progress. The team began drafting a new protocol based on this insight. They would establish a network of satellite programs, with the San Francisco hospital serving as the central research hub. Families could participate from their home communities, coming together periodically for intensive therapeutic sessions and research evaluations. Lucas's family offered another piece of the solution. Hannah, who had experience in project management before Lucas's accident, volunteered to help coordinate the satellite programs. She and Olivia began working on a parent advocacy network to help other families navigate the complex medical and insurance systems. Mrs. Taylor agreed to expand her role, traveling between locations to help train both dogs and handlers. She would work with local breeders to identify puppies with potential therapy dog characteristics, using Buddy's temperament as the gold standard. The resolution started taking shape. The Hendersons would return home but visit San Francisco quarterly for intensive therapy sessions and research documentation. They would help establish a satellite program in their local children's hospital, with Mrs. Taylor providing the crucial link between locations. Lucas's family would relocate to a halfway point between the two cities, allowing the children to maintain their friendship while Hannah helped coordinate the expanding program. Avery's regular therapy team created detailed protocols that could be followed by local therapists, with video conferencing for ongoing consultation. Buddy's interactions would continue to be documented, providing valuable data for the research team while allowing him to maintain his primary role as Avery's devoted companion. As they finalized the arrangements, they realized they had found something more valuable than a simple solution to their immediate conflict. They had created a sustainable model that could help children across the country while preserving the intimate, personal nature of the therapy that had made it so successful. The last piece fell into place when several major medical insurers, impressed by the documented results, agreed to launch a pilot program covering animal-assisted therapy for qualified patients. This development would help make the treatment accessible to families who couldn't afford to travel to San Francisco. On a warm summer morning, 1 year after Buddy first entered their lives, the Hendersons packed their car for the journey home. The San Francisco program had evolved into something far greater than anyone had imagined, but it was time for the next chapter to begin. Avery, now able to sit independently and beginning to scoot across the floor with determination, sat in her specially designed car seat with Buddy vigilantly positioned beside her. The progress she had made was remarkable, but it was the joy in her eyes and her frequent laughter that truly measured how far they'd come. Before leaving, they gathered one last time in the hospital garden where so many therapy sessions had taken place. Dr. Carter had organized a small celebration, bringing together all the families, therapists, and support staff who had become part of their extended family. Lucas was there with Bella, demonstrating his significantly improved upper body strength by holding a farewell card he had made himself. Mrs. Taylor, who had arrived the day before to drive home with them, stood proudly watching Buddy as he made his rounds, seemingly saying goodbye to each person who had been part of their journey. The puppy who had stumbled into their lives had matured into a confident therapy dog, while never losing his special devotion to Avery. "This isn't really goodbye," Olivia addressed the group, holding back tears. "It's just the beginning of something bigger than all of us." She was right. The satellite program was already taking shape, with 3 other children's hospitals implementing the protocols they had developed. The parent support network was growing, connecting families across the country who were starting their own healing journeys with therapy dogs. Dr. Carter presented them with a bound copy of the research findings dedicated to Avery and Buddy, who taught us that love is the most powerful medicine of all. The data was impressive, but the real testament to their success was in the faces of the children who had been part of the program, each showing remarkable progress in their own unique ways. As they prepared to leave, Lucas wheeled over to Avery. "See you next month," he said confidently, referring to the planned reunion at the first satellite location. Bella and Buddy touched noses, their own special goodbye, while Hannah and Olivia hugged, both knowing their friendship would continue to grow stronger. The drive home was filled with hope and possibility. Avery slept peacefully for much of it, one hand resting on Buddy's fur as always. Mrs. Taylor shared stories about the new puppies being trained for the expanding program, each one carefully selected to match the special qualities they had discovered in Buddy arriving home. They found their house decorated with welcome banners. Their community had gathered to celebrate their return, but more importantly, to show their support for the next phase of their journey. The local children's hospital had already prepared a space for the satellite program, and several families were eagerly waiting to begin. That evening, as Olivia and Ethan watched Avery playing on her therapy mat, Buddy ever present by her side, they reflected on how far they had come. Avery was now reaching, rolling, and beginning to explore her world in ways that had once seemed impossible. But beyond the physical progress, she had blossomed into a happy, engaged child who faced each day with determination and joy. Buddy, his mission never ending, continued his gentle encouragement of every new movement, every small victory. He had shown them all that sometimes the greatest healers come with 4 paws and an endless capacity for love. The story of Avery and Buddy would continue to inspire others, spreading hope and showing that miracles can happen in the most unexpected ways. Their journey had transformed not just their own lives, but had created a legacy that would help countless other children find their own paths to healing. As the sun set on their first day home, Avery fell asleep in her room, Buddy in his customary protective position beside her bed. Livia and Ethan stood in the doorway, watching their daughter's peaceful sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges and new victories. Mrs. Taylor, preparing to leave for the night, whispered what they were all thinking. The story of unconditional love between a child and a little puppy sends a powerful message about hope, resilience, and the strength of the bond between humans and animals. With every passing moment, every gentle nudge from Buddy, we witness not just a miracle, but a powerful testament to the way love and care can truly transform lives. It's a reminder that the most unexpected miracles can happen in our everyday lives. If you believe in the magic of love and connection, don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out on more inspiring stories like this one. We're here to share positive messages, heartwarming tales, and hope-filled moments that will remind you of the power of love and the belief in life. Be sure to follow and share with your loved ones, because everyone deserves to be inspired by the miracles that life has to offer.